When you do it that way, there's no evidence of racial profiling. Is that a fair statement?
Bob, let me inject here. Very often, even in the daytime, you could, and I'm talking about a day with a solar eclipse, but I mean in June, you very often can't tell because they drive cars, people drive cars with tinted windows.
Well, most of the time you can't tell.
Yeah.
And, that's something that I've touted all along is that I was a traffic officer for many years, stopped thousands upon thousands of vehicles. And the times that I knew the race of the driver was probably at 1% or less. Particularly you work on the highways and things like that, the speeds they're going. You're not looking at the driver, you're looking at the behavior, the driving behavior. So that's what you're doing when you're making traffic stops. And that's one of the things that I think may be hurting the numbers because we had officers who did nothing but traffic. So they were doing that kind of enforcement where they were looking for the violation and not necessarily the race of the driver. When you're talking about an investigative stop where you have information about who the suspect is and what color they may be, then you're looking at something totally different. You're looking at them instead of the driving behavior of the vehicle. And so I think there's a lot of things like that Dr. Milo kind of brings up, is that the vast majority of the time, police officers don't know who they're stopping until they get them stopped. And a lot of times you're surprised. You're expecting one person and you get another. Expect a female and there's a male in the car. You just don't know until you get up to the window.
So not only do you have to worry about whether the individual that you're stopping has negative intentions or has a profile history regarding their violations and criminal behavior, but all of a sudden now you've got to calculate all kinds of other differentials when you're just pulling somebody over to the side of the road.
Well, I think that's been the case.
And how many times do we find now that some of our worst crimes relating to police officers are mere traffic stops in the United States?
Right. Well, bad guys drive cars.
Really?
And that's one of the things
I didn't know that.
I remember
knew the show was of value.
I knew as a young officer that, when you were out there making traffic stops, you made arrests because you were stopping criminals. And so you came across things like narcotics, firearms, and things like that. And you generally made more arrests than a patrol officer working just patrol because they were limited by the calls they got. If they got a call and the suspect in the car was related to that call, they might stop that car and make an arrest. But just stopping them for traffic violations, you come across all kinds of things. And so, the patrol says, my buddies in patrol used to tell me, how do you stand out there working the highway all day long, just stopping cars and writing tickets. And I said, that's not all that I do. And my sergeant asked the other officer, how many felony arrests did you make last month? And he said, 3. And he said, he made 18. Because you're out there stopping felons.
Yeah.
They use cars as well.
I'm going to make a very facetious comment that there are a lot of bad actors on bicycles today in this city, and I'd love to see at least one of them arrested for a stoplight violation or raging through an intersection at high speed.
With a criminal record of murder and other things, requiring a warrant for their arrest.
Well, you're not alone. I get that a lot.
There's a lot of angry people about watching bicyclists zoom right past a stop sign.
Right, and they do.
Think they own the road.
Yeah.
Well, this veil of darkness theory of Dr. Milo, I read it. Read a long article. I didn't read his report. But some people will never accept that, will reject it out of hand. But to me, it holds water and I think is helpful for people to get a little more of a nuanced or balanced view of why people are stopped.
Yeah, and, I agree with him. I've said all along, I'm not naive. I'm sure there are police officers in the United States that engage in racial profiling based on the biases that they have, their personal biases, whether they realize they have them or not. But it's always been my belief that the average police officer comes to work every day intending to do the right thing. And so they don't generally use race. And so I think there's a lot more to discuss about these numbers. And I don't think the AG's numbers go far enough. I think
they're not the whole story.
They're not the whole story,
yeah.
And we need to go farther, or let's quit accusing us of racially profiling with inadequate information.
Let's talk about filling slots.
I was going to ask that question too.
recruiting, getting more officers to the beat. You do have